For many people, a TDF or a PDF is an incomprehensible set of letters, which is probably a good thing. For more advanced people, TDFs and CISOs are something like prisons, and they are right. The only difference between these facilities and correctional institutions is the time of confinement. It is assumed that people sit in TDFs and PDFs for a short time, for a while, and then, after the verdict is announced, they go to serve their sentence. This is almost always the case, although some people may serve their entire sentence in a pre-trial detention center. What is a TDF? First of all, the TDF, Temporary Detention Isolator, is intended for those who are suspected of criminal acts or were caught red-handed. This is necessary so that a person can no longer hide the traces of the crime and does not hide himself. The TDF is also intended for those who are serving a sentence for administrative offences, up to 15 days. TDFs can hold persons who have been transferred from CISOs to conduct investigative activities. Initially, a person must stay in the isolation centre for no more than 48 hours. During this time, he or she must choose a preventive measure or extend the period of isolation for another 72 hours. If all this has not been done, the detainee must be released. If a person has been transferred from a pre-trial detention centre for investigation, his/her stay in a TDF should not exceed 10 days per month. The detention in a TDF is prison-like. Detainees are placed in closed cells. Often there are cells with nothing but a place to sleep. The conditions in TDFs are quite strict. This is to prevent collusion or escape. Often TDFs are overcrowded and people literally sit on top of each other, especially on weekends and holidays. There are different types of TDFs: small, medium and large. Large isolation facilities are most often located in basements and separate buildings. Often, such TDFs are somewhat better than small ones. They are rarely overcrowded and have all the conditions for detainees. Admission to the TDF is carried out at any time of the day or night. First, an initial examination and questioning of the detainee is carried out. Various kinds of reports are drawn up: bodily injuries of the person, special signs that he or she was allegedly detained, etc. Also, if the detainee needs medical attention, it will be provided or sent to the hospital under the supervision of police officers. During the reception, they will take photos of the person, thoroughly search, and if there are suspicions, they will disassemble shoes and tear open clothes. Also, during the examination, they will remove plasters, if any, prosthetics, bandages, etc. The internal cavities of a person may be examined. Then all the detainee's belongings are disinfected, and the detainee is washed in a shower or bath. Detainees spend most of their time in the cells. They can go for walks, and there is a special area for that. Adults can walk for an hour, teenagers for 2 hours. The TDF can be visited by the detainee's lawyer for 2 hours daily. Relatives and relatives can also visit. Washing takes place once a week, shower or bath. Detainees can communicate with investigators, participate in investigative activities, etc. Adolescents can go away for training under the supervision of teachers. TDFs can be different. For example, juveniles and adults are not held together, nor are men and women held together. Recidivists and first-time offenders are also separated. Members of law enforcement agencies are kept separately. Even mothers with infants can be held in a temporary detention centre if there is a relevant decree. In TDFs, handovers are allowed. The number is limited only by weight, 30 kilograms. There are no restrictions on transfers to minors, women with infants, sick people, if there is a certificate. CISO. A pre-trial detention center or investigative isolator is a place where the subject who is accused of a criminal act is located. Placement in a pre-trial detention center occurs by court decision. It is worth noting that staying in a pre-trial detention center is not an easy ordeal in itself. Many convicts believe that the colony is much better than a remand center. It is all about the large number of restrictions that apply here, as well as more difficult conditions. Admission to the pre-trial detention center is 24 hours a day. The first thing to do is to undergo a thorough personal examination. The detainee will be fingerprinted, photographed, and interviewed. After all this, the detainee is sent to a cell. The cell is chosen depending on gender and age. No adult will be placed with teenagers. Also, a particularly dangerous person will not be placed with ordinary people. Recidivists will not be put together with first-time offenders, etc. There are enough sleeping and boarding places in the cells. But very often it happens that the cells are overcrowded, and instead of 4 people, there can be 20 or even 30. But this practice of accommodation is already a thing of the past and reached its peak in the 90s. There are bedding and minimal hygiene products in the cell. In the pre-trial detention center, the rising time is at 6 a.m. and the leaving time is at 10 p.m. Prisoners spend almost all their time in the cells of the remand center. Exceptions are daily walks in the fresh air. This may be a special area, or it may be a cell with bars instead of a ceiling. Every week it is possible to visit a shower or a bath for 15 minutes. Periodically you can meet with a lawyer. There may also be off-site investigative activities. The staff of the pre-trial detention facility monitor the regime of stay in the isolation center. Periodically, searches for prohibited items or substances are carried out. At the same time, searches are carried out unscheduled. They can even start at night. 30 minutes after rising, detainees have breakfast. Most often for breakfast, lunch and dinner, there are 1s, 2s, and tea. The taste and nutrition of food in the pre-trial detention center leaves much to be desired. Also, at about 8 to 9 a.m., there is a shift change for the staff of the pre-trial detention center. At this time, the cells are rounded in order to collect suggestions and complaints from detainees. In the pre-trial detention facility in your free time, you can play board games provided by the staff, read books, write letters, and sometimes watch TV if there is one. Most often, conditions in women's cells are much better than in men's cells. After lights out at 10 p.m., the lights are dimmed. By the way, it is at this time that all kinds of illegal activities take place. Transfer of drugs, money, various prohibited items, etc. CISOs do not hold people with serious illnesses, injuries, amputations. But in order for a person to be recognized as such, he must undergo an examination and a commission. This applies even to those with obvious health problems. A referral to the commission is given by a judge, investigator, or the person who supervises the case. Most often, detainees were held in general cells. Teenagers and women are in the most good cells. If a person breaks the order, he or she can be moved to a punishment cell, a solitary confinement cell. People who have received a sentence and are serving it in the remand center by court decision serve in the pre-trial detention center. Most often, people who stay in pre-trial detention facilities actively cooperate with the investigation and the administration of the institution. Experienced people who have gone through the so-called prison school do not recommend to behave too openly in pre-trial detention centers and temporary detention facilities. All the people held there are random, and after receiving a sentence, they are likely to go to a penal colony to serve their time, or they will be lucky and go free. This can happen if a person's guilt was not proven, he was acquitted, or the term in the pre-trial detention center completely covered the term to which the court sentenced him. It is better to get to know each other more closely in the place where the sentence is served. If we talk about TDFs and pre-trial detention facilities, we can summarize. A TDF is a temporary shelter where people are taken immediately after detention. Here, they can also serve short terms, up to 15 days, or stay during investigative actions. In the future, a person is sent by court decision to a pre-trial detention center for the duration of the investigation.